we've got the CEO of Ford with us right now, right on the back of this. John, Sarah, and Kate joining us. Jim Farley.
Beijing has responded to Donald Trump's apparent U-turn in their escalating trade war.
In just a few years, the CEO of Ford has made headlines by breaking away from the usual corporate consensus when it comes to President Trump's tariff plans. We're talking about a hefty 25% tax on cars not built in the U.S. If a car is made here, it comes with no tariff. This situation began quietly in Detroit, but it quickly turned into a major issue across America's auto industry. Ford, a classic symbol of American manufacturing, just faced a setback that caught everyone off guard. Factories went silent, workers were sent home, and production slowed to a standstill, all because of tariffs. Not from overseas, but coming straight from Washington, D.C. Before we dive deeper, make sure to like this video to help us reach more viewers. On May 17th, Ford shocked the public by announcing the shutdown of several key assembly lines in the U.S., including its Chicago plant, where thousands of Ford Explorers and Lincoln Aviators were once produced. The Michigan assembly, known for the Bronco and Ranger, came to a halt, leaving countless workers awaiting uncertain news. What's driving all of this? Tariffs, specifically those meant to penalize rather than protect. While the goal was to bring jobs back to America, it seems to have sent them spiraling away instead. President Trump's trade strategy imposed a sweeping 25% tax on imported parts and vehicles to target countries like China and Mexico, but it ended up hurting American factories. Ford projected a staggering earnings hit of over $1.5 billion in 2025, a financial blow that no company, not even Ford, can easily withstand. Consequently, the shutdowns began. This wasn't just a Ford issue. The impact rippled across the Midwest, prompting General Motors to revise its production schedules and lay off hundreds while quietly moving some truck assembly back to Indiana. Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler and Dodge, had to idle entire plants in Canada and Mexico, but the pain was felt most sharply in places like Michigan and Indiana, where 900 workers found themselves laid off without warning. Ford attempted to respond by implementing emergency pricing adjustments. Models like the Mustang Mach-E, the Maverick, and the Bronco Sport, produced in Mexico, saw price increases of nearly $2,000 to help offset the tariffs. For dealerships, the shock hit hard and fast, leaving Ford and many others still reeling. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support. Recently, there have been some serious warnings from Ford's top executives about potential cuts coming down the line. Tariffs have been pushing costs up on everything, from steel to electronics. For instance, the Lincoln Nautilus, which comes from China, has become too pricey to compete in showrooms. Ford even stopped exporting to China, losing access to one of the biggest auto markets out there. It's clear, the trade war isn't just speculation anymore. It's now a stark reality affecting business. When asked about Ford's decision to halt production, President Trump didn't seem surprised. He remarked that it was expected and insisted that the company should have moved production back to the U.S. sooner. "These tariffs are about America first," he said. This declaration sent shockwaves across the auto industry. If the president could brush off Ford's struggles, who might be next? Warning signs abound. Stellantis shut down SUV production in Mexico for a whole month, halting parts supply and assembly lines. The ripple effects were severe, leading to layoffs at several U.S. stamping plants connected to these models. With worker morale plummeting, executives began avoiding media scrutiny, and for the first time in years, the union openly criticized the company. This situation was beyond mere pressure. It was about survival. At GM's Fort Wayne truck plant, known for producing Silverado and Sierra pickups, the company tried to make a stand by adding a shift, hiring 200 new workers, and restarting a plant that had been on pause. The aim was to produce more trucks within the U.S. to sidestep the tariffs. For now, it seemed to work, but there's an underlying warning. If supply chains don't adjust quickly, even dependable plants could be at risk. Meanwhile, Nissan has started canceling U.S. orders for certain SUVs from Mexico, Toyota is slowing shipments, and Honda has increased their prices. The turbulence isn't going away, it's intensifying. And then there's the impact on customers. New car prices shot up in April by over 2.5% in just 1 month. the largest jump in years. Dealerships are reporting that buyers are hurrying to finalize contracts before prices escalate even further. But inventory is shrinking, with deliveries lagging, and once popular models are disappearing from lots. In an effort to keep sales steady despite rising costs, Ford attempted to offer employee pricing to everyone, a move usually saved for desperate situations. The objective was simple: maintain sales momentum. However, this strategy has only provided temporary relief. The financial realities are becoming increasingly hard to ignore. The auto industry is facing some tough times right now. Supply chains are under pressure, with parts made in Mexico becoming 25% pricier. Cars built in Canada are facing border taxes, and components from China, from batteries to chips, are hit with up to 30% duties. This squeeze has many companies struggling to stay afloat. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, described the situation as the fairest fight in decades, meant to convey hope. But behind closed doors, Ford was revising its forecasts downward and trying to explain to its investors why a company that makes a large majority of its cars in the U.S. is still having such a hard time. Then layoffs hit cities like Kokomo and Toledo. Workers who thought they were safe after the last recession found themselves in dire straits as production lines shut down. Entire shifts were cut, and local businesses that relied on those workers felt the pinch. Governors in states like Indiana held emergency meetings, and labor boards in Michigan issued alerts about a rising jobless rate. City mayors even reached out to Washington for assistance, but the tariffs remained in place. Wall Street was shocked as auto stock prices fell. Supplier shares took a significant hit, and analysts warned that continued tariffs could lead to over 1 million lost car sales this year alone. Meanwhile, the message from Washington was clear: no changes were coming. The Trump administration insisted that the situation was just a bump in the road, claiming companies would bounce back and factories would reopen. But inside the industry, many were not counting on that help. Ford started to reassess future product launches. GM shifted its engineers to different tasks, and Stellantis put a freeze on hiring. Amid all this, a growing concern emerged. Is this what America First looks like? The losses go beyond just finances. They threaten the very momentum of the North American auto industry. This industry once stood as an incredible model of collaboration across 3 countries, with thousands of suppliers and millions of vehicles produced. Now, that system is starting to break apart. Shifting production back to the U.S. overnight simply isn't an option for Ford or GM. Their supply chains took decades to build and are designed for cost efficiency and speed. Disruptions are costly and risky. Yet that's the reality imposed by tariffs. Companies find themselves making decisions rooted in survival rather than efficiency, shifting production here, pausing shipments there, canceling orders, increasing prices. Throughout this turmoil, the everyday worker bears the brunt of these changes. For every job created in one state, another may be lost elsewhere. In Michigan, every time a shift ramps up in Fort Wayne, another one hits pause in Windsor. It feels like a game where the pieces are disappearing fast. The political gap is widening. Trump insists the fight for jobs is essential, while Democrats argue that the price is too steep. Workers are stuck in the middle, witnessing their paychecks dwindle and their hopes fade. What comes next? The industry is on edge, anticipating backlash. China has already slapped tariffs on American car exports, which means our vehicles are losing a foothold in overseas markets. Buyers are turning to Korean and European models because American cars are simply too pricey, and this trend could affect local sales soon as well. Ford is still standing, but it's facing challenges like never before. For the first time in years, it feels off balance. The dedicated workers who built this iconic brand, who relied on it to support their families, are now left wondering if it was all worth it.